Okay, we'll call to order our March 28 meeting of the Santa Barbara Community College District Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. Given that this is spring break, I'm pleased to see a number of people are here. I wasn't expecting so many. Our first order of business is for those who wish to participate. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. For the record, I'll note that all members except for Trustee Gallardo. Correction, all members of the Board of Trustees are present for this meeting today. Our first order of business is to announce and grant the Administrator of the Year Award, and I'm calling on Luz Reyes-Martin to take care of the presentation.
Thank you so much, President Miller, members of the Board of Trustees, and Dr. Bishop. It's my honor to be the stand-in today to announce the Administrator of the Year Award. So I'd like to go over a little bit of the process before we get into the honorable mentions and to this year's recipient. The Administrator of the Year Award is a recognition we have here at Santa Barbara City College. Nominations were opened at the end of January. Any permanent employee may nominate an administrator for consideration for this award, but the winner is selected by a confidential vote of the membership of the Advancing Leadership Association. So it's a peer voted on award. Briefly, the eligibility for this award is you must be a permanent college administrator at SBCC at the time of the nomination. You must have current satisfactory evaluation on file in HR, have current completion of your employee evaluations, and be a participant in the Management Professional Growth Program. Administrators who have received the award in the past can't receive it again. This year, Human Resources received nominations for 6 outstanding administrators during the nomination period. Unfortunately, only 4 of those 6 met all of the eligibility requirements. So they've been, the 2 that weren't were followed up with so that they knew that they had been nominated, but the reasons why they didn't meet eligibility. Usually it's participation in the Management Professional Growth Program, so it's a way to encourage managers to participate. ALA members were able to cast their confidential vote beginning March 11th and concluding March 18th. So tonight we have 3 honorable mentions and our winner. So in keeping with past tradition of not stating who is getting which one until the end of some comments, I'll try to keep to that. So each of the nominations had just wonderful statements of why the individuals were being nominated. So I won't read the entire nomination, but I've selected out some snippets that will give you and everyone that's here today an idea of why they were nominated. So our first honorable mention is an individual who is described as having creative ideas, passion for their role, a collaborator, someone who's optimistic, persistent, and fosters cooperation. They are a proven leader who has effectively managed the operations of their department and is highly respected by their staff. This person has been instrumental in efforts such as formalizing and refining the manager reclassification process, and also the MOU negotiations for the Advancing Leadership Association. You'll start to see people realizing who I'm talking about. They've done an amazing job working with the district, the ALA Executive Committee, and participatory governance committees to represent and meet the needs of managers and supervisors. This nomination was enthusiastically submitted for Nicole Hubert, who is one of our honorable mentions. And our last honorable mention is a person who is positive, caring, they are a caring and non-judgmental person, and their staff feel comfortable seeking their help and asking questions. They are never afraid to come forward when they make a mistake. In team meetings, they openly discuss problems and areas for improvement. Their feedback helps move the staff forward, and they never dwell on the negative. This was a really glowing recommendation. I'm sure you can hear the care that they have for this individual. And so our last honorable mention is Tracy Janicek. So this is the description for our Outstanding Administrator of the Year. This person is supportive and encouraging in everything they do. And this nomination included a lot of their awards and the work that they've done, which I think I could spend all night talking about the work they do. But what I think was probably very striking were the testimonials that were included from many different staff, so I'd like to read some of those. This person's holistic leadership style enables them to assess student needs and empower them to achieve their educational goals. Their staff has observed, and I'm going to say her, ability to build strong relationships with students, staff, and faculty across the campus through her open door policy. Undoubtedly, her excellent leadership skills and strong commitment to student success are an invaluable asset to the SBCC community. Another one read, among her most marked leadership qualities is her unwavering support and responsiveness to ever-evolving student needs. Her open door policy and genuine care and concern for the success and well-being of the most marginalized students on our campus ensures that these needs are responded to intentionally and with dignity. She is a great listener. She carries herself with integrity, communicates well, is a versatile facilitator, and leads by example. She is a leader who empowers her employees and wants to provide opportunities for growth. She is supportive and attentive to the needs of her employees, but her #1 priority is the overall success of our students. Overall, her contagious optimism coupled with her rolled-up sleeve determination has always made her an effective and formidable colleague and now administrator. So, Board of Trustees, it is my honor to announce the 2019 Outstanding Administrator of the Year is SBCC's Director of EOPS, Paloma Arnold.
I just want to say thank you to the Board of Trustees, Dr. Bishop, and most importantly, thank you to, I'm crying, to the EOPS staff. I'm very honored, and I feel really fortunate to work with all of you. You are all examples of passionate people who are really I think I'm really lucky to be part of such a special team. So thank you for everything that you do for our students, and thank you for doing this for me.
And on behalf of the Board of Trustees, congratulations to all of you. It really, for an award like this that is essentially decided by your coworkers, I think it's a particularly significant recognition. So congratulations. Our next item on the agenda is going to be called out of order, item 11.1. And item 11.1 will be presented by Jeff Green, CEO of the foundation, who's going to present to the board a proposal to conduct research on the current housing realities of SBCC students. So
you also have a, I believe, a public comment for that number.
I don't think so.
I thought you did.
No.
No, not for 11?
He has 11.1, but the title is for a different agenda
Oh.
item. So I think the,
Okay.
maybe I got to ask the speaker, Denise Adams, whether she intended to speak on this topic or, okay. So if you could come up first.
Good catch, Angie.
Good afternoon. My name's Denise Spangler Adams. I've been a resident for 39 years and participating in the college since 1980. On behalf of the community, Santa Barbara City has a housing shortage and a housing issue. We were there Tuesday night until 10:30 at night over a mere 73 units. It is estimated from the new state mandates that are coming down, where we have to take, quote, our fair share, that Santa Barbara will need to add approximately 4,000 additional units just to accommodate the people who live in Santa Barbara now. That's our workforce, our professional people, faculty, staff, people in our community. The issue that was raised again at the Tuesday City Council meeting is how Santa Barbara Community College interfaces with the community at large. Requests have been made to the mayor that they assign a city council representative to work directly with City College on any of your plans for housing. As you know, community colleges were established to serve their local community. Santa Barbara City College does not serve the local community. 55% of your students come from out of the area. So out of your 16,000 student base, you have only approximately 7,800 who are living within our district, and of those 1,600 are high school students who live at home. Community colleges were intended to serve people who live within our district boundaries. You are now serving 55% who live outside of our boundaries. If you look at the 114 community colleges and the history of community colleges, if in fact the commuting time was more than 1 hour, then community colleges developed housing on campus. There are 11 of the 114 community colleges that do have dorms on campus, such as in Weeds College of Siskiyou up in Northern California. But I ask you as trustees to be very mindful of the community and our needs. We do not have water. When we have the Montecito disaster, we have 2 lanes in and out of this community. When they're shut down, we are trapped. The only way in and out is by air or by sea. We don't have roads. We're old. It's a huge, major issue. The Santa Barbara Planning Commission will be starting, in fact, today, Thursday, on the development of a multifamily master housing plan. In California, our last master plan was developed in 1950. In 1950, we had 10 million people in California. We now have 40 million people. That's during my lifetime. It's expected to go up to 50 million. I don't know where we put all the housing, but community colleges were designed and intended to serve people within their local community. Changes have occurred here. You've heard me say before, my kids would not be where they are today. The 19-year-old and the 26-year-old, he could have never accessed MIT if he didn't start here in 5th grade.
2 minutes remaining.
You need to serve our community, and the housing issue, I think, you need to cooperate and coordinate with the city and what they're doing. I have talked to planning commissioners. They're willing to work with your staff. But again, the big question is, as a board, who do you want Santa Barbara City College to serve? I know you have budget issues, you have staff issues, you have payroll, but again, how did we morph into a local community college and then tell the people and the mothers like me, if you want your kids to go here? I had to sit through math classes with my daughter. Trust me, my kids passed me up in math at 3rd grade. You don't go to MIT and you don't succeed if you're at your mother's math level. They came here, Dr. Georgiakis had a class full. You are producing some of the best people. When you watch the space launch, when you watch NASA, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I can name you kids that came out of your program right here. And I would like to ask you to please consider to returning to where your emphasis, like other community colleges, is to serve the people who live here. And I think your housing needs would go down, and you would please a lot of parents who have very bright kids who, unfortunately, the school districts, and I don't care if it's a number-rated Cold Spring school where my children went, they need the math instruction and they need the science and the STEM services that you have at this campus. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
Get that back up. Thanks, Liz. Well, thank you. Good to see you, Acting Superintendent President Bishop. President Miller and board members, you've seen the memo that we included in your packet, and I just want to remind folks this is a continuation of a long-standing conversation. With actually the first meeting of this year, you invited me and actually Dr. Beebe reached out, and we've been working on this for a couple of years. A notion of we need to know a little bit more, actually a lot more, about the actual housing realities of our students. What we're proposing here is what we discussed back in January, but this is just a bit more specific. And tonight I'll run through our thoughts and sort of our best thinking and way forward, and just ask for your support to move forward to the next step. That would include a number of things which we'll talk about when we get to the end of the report. But the baseline here is this. We know that our students have a lot of different housing challenges, and we're not alone. We also know that housing has been a significant issue for Santa Barbara for decades. I shared with you previously, I've been a commissioner with our housing authority for the city of Santa Barbara, and I'm not bragging because I sit on the commission, because the commission only supports, but truly one of the leaders in the nation with affordable housing, and that's recognized nationally as well as throughout our community. Serve with our PATH Homeless Advisory Board as well. So I've been working in homelessness and housing for 25 years in various volunteer and professional roles, and this is certainly a passion of mine. What I'm asking you to do on behalf of my colleagues is work with us to really map out the realities for our students. As Ms. Spangler-Adams and many others before her have noted, there are a lot of different folks coming from a lot of different directions asking us to do various things on housing. What we're saying is great, but before we do anything, we need to know exactly what we're talking about. The situation changes year to year, it changes decade to decade. It frankly changes semester to semester. And I'll give you some of the data that we're using for this. But what we're really asking tonight is that we do a formal study. We actually do some research, so we don't want just anecdotal evidence. We don't need more stories, although stories are always wonderful to illustrate a point, but we really need to have a map of what's happening for our students. This is something that we can do, we believe, with one or more research partners and ask the right questions in such a way that we are really going to get a very good analysis of where our students fall on that spectrum. Some things we all know, we have homeless students. It's shockingly greater numbers than most people realize. And of course, every time there's a new study and a new survey, those numbers are back on the front pages. You saw probably 2 weeks ago, the folks at Wisconsin Hope Lab did yet another survey of this time 40,000 community college students in just the state of California. And found really a shocking number of not only just housing insecurity, food insecurity, and other needs. So the profile of the typical college student and community college student in particular is radically different than a generation ago, 2 generations ago, 3 generations ago. So what we want to do is figure out what is it exactly that we're working with here and looking at for Santa Barbara. We believe this can be done in a fairly straightforward manner between now and probably the end of this calendar year. And what we're proposing is this, that we would work with one or more, as I said, research partners, and we would go ahead and actually survey the entirety of our credit students. And we could actually, depending on the conversation that follows this, include all students, including dual enrollment students. We could include all exclusively online students. We could go as far and wide as we want, but we want to at least do main campus credit students. And we could also do this in multiple ways. Now, you know, in this day and age, anyone can throw out a SurveyMonkey. The problem with everybody's SurveyMonkey is it's not necessarily a scientifically accurate instrument. So what we want to do is build around that with a professional research team. We would have an online forum, we would have an in-person doorway, we'd have as many gateways as we can to get the greatest cross-section of our own students to respond to us and let us know what their reality is. What we know is that the problem here is one in part of definitions, it's one of economics, it's one of assumptions, and of course it's radically made worse by our own housing market here in Santa Barbara. But if you look here at the folks we mentioned, we believe that there's at least 4 research teams that we could work with, all of whom have experience here. Temple University and Wisconsin Hope Lab is who I just mentioned. They've really been leading the effort over the last year and a half on this work. West Ed is actually our current research partner with the SBCC Promise and a well-known national, actually the largest nonprofit national education research organization. We've got Compass Compact, we've got the Community College Equity Assessment Lab, so we've got a lot of folks that already have some experience in this. When we look at our college leadership, we believe that we would want to make sure that we have trustees, college leadership at various levels working alongside the foundation to do this, and so we have here just a range of folks that we think would be key. Again, this is at the discretion of the board and working with us to figure out who would be around that table. The data that is available as part of this, what we want to do is essentially take the data we have access to, and there's quite a bit of it, but then we have to overlay that with this survey data from our own community. So just saying, well, nationally or statewide or even Southern California-wide, which is about as granular as you can get with some of the available data, at least on the questions we need to ask, we would then take that as the landscape within which we would construct our questions for our very own students. You can see there the many data sources. Many of you are going to be familiar with some of these. Some of them are media organizations, the Census Bureau itself, of course. You have iPads, you have USDA. Some of these are things that we work with regularly when we're applying for grants or what have you. So we have some familiarity with these. Our community partners, we have not only the Housing Authority, the City of Santa Barbara, but also the County of Santa Barbara. We have the county itself. There's several departments within the county and the city that we believe would be critical. And then we have some nonprofit organizations, the Home for Good folks, the YMCA, Youth and Family Services, the folks that actually work on the side of the property owners and managers. We believe that all of these folks have something to offer, and many have already offered up their particular data, and we think we can put this together in a very comprehensive way. What we would recommend is putting out a formal RFP by the end of next month, so by the end of May, or I'm sorry, month and a few days away. And then we would work with the folks that would be assembled to put this together through the summer session. So we could launch this hopefully by late in session 2, but certainly by the fall, and really use the fall semester as our time of gathering that data. And by the end of that, we would have our data, we'd be able to properly assess it, and then we'd have a report. We'd have something to offer. And the idea, again, here is before we were to do anything, and I want to make it clear that we're talking about the anything could come from many directions. We do have many state mandates coming down. Of course, the housing problem in California, it's not just Santa Barbara, and it's gotten so bad that in many ways there are state level and even federal level decision makers saying, you haven't been able to solve it locally, so this is how you're going to have to do it. So if something were to come our way, we have to be ready to do it in a smart way. If we were to choose to do something on the other hand, whether that means take existing programs and simply beef them up a little bit, or to do something else in partnership with another entity, to me, all of that is a question for later. The question now is, what is the actual landscape? Because if we don't know that, I don't think we can make a smart choice on what we can best do to help our students that really need it. We know that some of our students do not. Some of our students actually are very housing secure. But there are a lot of folks in the middle, and that housing insecurity can mean a lot of different things. The last page of the report, one of the things I mentioned is that we have a definitional problem. We talked about this in January as well, which is when someone says homeless, there's an image that we all get, and it's not the same for everyone. And when we say housing insecure, we're meaning something quite a bit broader than that. And so if we use those interchangeably, as begun to happen in some communities, in some instances, we're actually doing ourselves a disservice. So we have to talk about what we mean. Housing insecurity can mean too many people in a unit. It can mean a unit that's month to month with no guarantee of continuity. It can mean health hazards. It can mean something that is simply unaffordable for the long term. It can mean couch surfing. It can mean lots of different things. Homelessness, you can be in a shelter, you can be on the streets, you can be living in your vehicle. We know all of the things I've just describe students. We just don't know how many, and we don't know which direction these trends are going. So I've offered a few of the definitions that are used up there, and at this point I want to acknowledge that my closest partner on this has been my colleague Lucille Boss, who's here with us, and Lucille is actually running the SBCC Promise, as you all know. She also has a passion for this work, also sits on the Housing Authority Commission with me, so we've been working together on this and would plan that we would do so in conjunction with whomever we decide is a sort of a steering committee. Lastly, there are a number of things that are actually happening. Some of these I know you are following very closely. Some of them may not be on your radar yet, so we wanted to give you a sense of the other places where this is moving. As I said, there are certain bills coming from a statewide level, but there are departments across the state. There are efforts in the community colleges themselves coming out of the chancellor's office. There are just a lot of different things moving. So we're talking about greater emergency grants for students. We're talking about folks that are saying, well, you need to open up your parking lots. You know, Santa Barbara pioneered the safe parking program. That was something actually I had the pleasure of working with the founders of. It is now housed at the New Beginnings Counseling Center. The question has come up on this campus. Other faculty members have asked me over the last several years, hey, is this something we could do? Dr. Beebe and I discussed it. It may well become that the state says you have to do that if you're a community college. So there's a lot happening, and I think that just to be best prepared to do the right thing and to do it promptly and to do it efficiently, we just have to ask some of these questions now. So we're hardly the first to do this. Some of our other districts around Southern California have certainly already done this, so it's not like we're paving new territory here. But in fact, it's well past time, and I know we all agree that we need to know more before we act. So that's where I want to start it, and I'll leave it at there, and then we can maybe have a conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions?
Comment. I just want to compliment you on trying to understand the nature of the problem before you solve it, which is sometimes antithetical to how we approach things. But we have speculated with lots of anecdotes over the years about who's homeless and who really needs help, and it is very clear to me that this is not a problem of recent generation. I mean, when I started teaching, I took surveys in my classes, and this is in the early 70s, and well over 60% of the students came from out of the district and therefore laid claim to housing in this area. And so that problem persists, and as far as I know, we've never really taken a systematic review of the nature of the problem to find out better how to solve it. Right. So thank you.
Certainly.
Trustee Croninger.
I wanted to say thank you too, Jeff. I think that was an excellent explanation of the issues and the things that we should be looking at and the ways that we can look at it and get some really important and useful data out of it. So thank you for that great presentation.
Thank you. Trustee Parker?
And the only thing that I would add is that I have found that we are often, especially in the community, talking about housing and thinking about students that are that are fresh out of high school coming to this campus, while the reality is that over 60% of our students are over the age of 20. And I do think we can get kind of a skewed perspective when we think about that flow out of high school when the majority of students are coming back to this school, and it kind of touches on what Trustee Hasland was saying. So I think that this will be really, really helpful. Thank you.
Certainly.
Trustee Nelson.
Yeah, dittos on the thank you part. I'm impressed when I first read this, and to me, it relates to what Dr. Beebe started to do when he got here 3 years ago, when he kicked off his interest in right-sizing, put emphasis on right-sizing the college. And that doesn't mean making it bigger or smaller, but making it fit. And taking into consideration all the difficulties he went through in a few years before he got here. Not necessarily difficulties so much as concerns that we were addressed with, and especially student housing. I think that without this information, we are going to have a really hard time completing right-sizing this college. So it's critical. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would, anybody else? Trustee Abud.
I just want to thank you and Lucille for the great work in putting this together, and I'm excited to see who we end up getting as our researcher and how we can work with them. And I want to say, everyone who went to the Sullivan Conference, we got the report, I think, from the Wisconsin Hope that came out 2 weeks ago. We got a physical copy of it. I got one for you because you had just left, and so I think it's a great thing for all of us to look at. We can have one now specific to our college, but that was one for the whole state. It was very eye-opening to read that, even though I had done research already myself. Reading that specific study of the whole state community college students was profound and shows how alarming the situation is.
Yeah. And if I may, actually, on that point for that Trustee Abud just made, that study, one of the, I think it's opened a lot of eyes and it's shocked some folks. The other, the contrary, the flip side of that is it's been critiqued as being a non-representative sample. And that's because it was self-selected. And although the sample size was enormous on a relative scale to other studies, over 40,000, out of 2.3 million students, one could still argue, well, that doesn't necessarily paint the whole picture. So what we're trying to do here is take all of that information, but scale it down to our community, however, make it a far more robust sample size so that we actually can say some defensible general realities that we can paint the picture of our students' housing situation. So that's a...
Just wanted to quickly note, because you did ask us our opinion on this, but I think we should just survey all students, not just the credit students on the campus. Okay. Just because, you never know why someone is in non-credit and they might still be housing insecure for whatever reason. So.
I appreciate that. My sense from doing this in other forum is that the marginal cost and effort to do that is probably not all that great. So if we're going to go to this level of effort and we're going to expend the funds, I think it's important to make it as complete as possible. So I did leave that as an open question, but if the board feels strongly that we do want to be more comprehensive than just credit main campus students, and we actually have zero objection to that. We just wanted to say at the very least we felt this is what we needed. So thank you for that.
Well, I'd like to add my positive comments as well. Yes. Since I've been on the board, I've heard lots of anecdotal information about the housing problem. You can go a lot of places and see data about housing problem for students, kind of generally, not just Santa Barbara. And I have no doubt we have a serious issue, as do other colleges, but the absolute best step forward is to do what you're proposing, and that is to get the facts. And I think the survey is what we need. Let me ask what you would like from us at this point. As you can hear, I think everybody is...
Trustee Miller, can I ask a question when you're done?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sure.
I know you were starting to wrap it up.
Transition.
And conclude it. I know. I could tell. That's good. So Jeff, who anticipates paying for this? The college and the foundation, and or both?
So this was the offer we'd made, and we stand by from back in January, is that we're happy to either fully or as a shared venture pay for the cost. So that the foundation does have discretionary dollars that could be appropriated something like this. If the district wanted to share that cost, if we felt that was a better way to go forward, we can talk about how that works. But we're not hesitating to propose this just because we know that if you were to say, well, we really don't have the ability to share in the cost, but we'll do these other things around it, that the foundation actually does have the capacity to do that. We won't know the actual dollar amount until we get that RFP out there. But just from asking our peers around the state of what they've done and what they've spent, what we're talking about is well within the capacity of the foundation if you were to ask us to do that fully.
And then my second comment is knowing that the city of Santa Barbara is also everybody across the state is looking into this. Yeah. And if we're going to spend money, I'd like it to be some type of data that would be useful to our partners in the community. I would like to see how housing just impacts our overall institution. And so that is looking at employees and classified staff, adjuncts. A lot of what we've heard for when we've gone out for hires and we've had to close the jobs and reopen them, one of the underlying factors by which folks did not take our jobs is salary and then housing. As we mentioned, you can't just live somewhere really far away and come here like you can in the Bay Area. You can live out in the East Bay and commute into San Francisco. And so I think our geographic location is just unique to that. I'm just not in favor of spending money if it's not going to be something that's going to take our other partners, something that it's going to be useful to them, because this is really a citywide issue. I did have the opportunity to view, I believe it was one of the February city council meetings, so I got to hear a lot of folks in the community that are our community as well, sharing their concerns and just hearing all sides of this issue. So if we're going to learn about this issue, I'd like it to be an SBCC community survey. I also, before we go forward with going out to the RFP, I do want to make sure that the foundation board is also okay with that. And when you preside it, if you give us a date, I'd like to attend and just to see what the foundation board take is on that. I know that the money that the foundation raises is mission money, and so that we're all on the same page and supporting each other in that capacity.
Certainly. On the last point, so our next board meeting, so I have brought this to my board a number of times over the last 6 months, just sort of as updates, and there was no quick momentum at that point, so it was more just, hey, we're in this conversation with the district. When we had the January presentation, the following meeting in February, I gave them a brief overview of what was discussed, what I'd offered on behalf of the foundation. So when we get to this next step, that would be where we start to dig in a bit more. So that will be at our April board meeting. And I'll make sure that you have that date if you don't already. So that would be where our board would put its stamp on it. The dollars I'm speaking of are not raised dollars, just to be clear as well. So I don't. This wouldn't compete with other raised dollars. This would be part of one of the 12 discretionary funds that we jointly have some control over. Each year, there's a range of projects that those tend to pay for. It's in recent history. Some of them have been dedicated to the Promise, some of them to the new 525 Anacapa building project, a lot of them to specific requests from faculty and administration. And so as these kind of roll off, that frees up dollars, and that's where we'll be in the next fiscal year. So we're talking about FY 2020 money at this point, but that would be as soon as we'd be paying anything anyhow. So. We'd have a clean slate at that point. But I'm happy to do that full map with you and with our board as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're being as transparent as possible and just really bringing everybody on board on this. It's such an important issue to all of us.
Absolutely.
And I think that whenever either you're dealing with private dollars or public dollars, to maximize our impact in the community, and you know a lot about maximizing impact in the community, I think is a priority.
Great. As to the way the mechanism that I see and I'm putting forward would be a small advisory committee that would actually have partners. So one of the actions I would ask of your board tonight, if you, and it sounds like you are, fully support us going to the next step, would be to see if you could appoint a liaison to this oversight committee. The foundation would then basically act as the lead entity to move it forward, and we'd convene this committee, which would include not only campus leadership, and I did put some suggestions in here about who we thought might be ideal partners for that. Let me find that. It's in there. I know it's in there.
Up.
The advisory committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Page 3.
Thank you. There we go, very end. So the sort of skeletal form of this would be a liaison from the trustees, liaison from the administration, a couple of community members, and other key college representatives sort of as determined. So if someone stepped forward and said, you know, we really should have EOPS at the table on this as their front line, directly working with some of the students that are most challenged, or whatever it may be. But we want to keep it small, nimble, active, maybe a dozen folks maximum, probably 7 to 9 would be ideal. We would reach out to our partners at the Housing Authority, at the city, at the others, folks that are really already knee-deep in this work. The good news at this point in our history in the local community is in my 25 years of working around homelessness and housing, I've never seen people working as well together as they are now, so there's a lot more data sharing, there's a lot more regular regional strategy happening, whether it's the Home for Good crew or whether it's happening within individual governmental agencies. So I think we have a pretty good opportunity to drag a few willing partners into one more meeting to do this and make sure it takes the shape that we all would agree with. Because I agree with you that if, from the outset, we have to have buy-in that this is the right set of questions, because we don't want something like this to be undermined after the fact because someone says, well, you didn't ask X. So that's where we're headed.
Trustee Haslund?
I appreciate Veronica's point about faculty, and I wonder if the survey is going to incorporate faculty and staff. And
yeah. Well, that's something we can do. I mean, that was in an earlier proposal that we could also extend this to the full. So I would divide this into two separate questions. They're related and overlapping, but they really are separate universes. One is, as an employer, SBCC is at the exact same, mercy of forces as Ms. Spangler-Adams and others have mentioned, that, if you're trying to attract someone and you're trying to find, would you take this role? We want you. And then they look at their salary and they look at the housing market if they're not coming from the local community, and we lose folks. Every major employer loses people for that reason, and every major employer draws folks from out of the area and has an impact on our housing market. And so it's been a big struggle. This includes city and county government, it includes Cottage Health, it includes the University of California at Santa Barbara, it includes many of the growing tech firms. And so many of us that work in this field have been in conversation and looked at some of the creative solutions they've had. Probably the most robust was what Cottage Health did with the old St. Francis campus when they actually created employee housing there. But that takes a tremendous amount of resources, and that's, although a wonderful model, I'd consider that an outlier. But we still could ask the question and say, so what is your housing reality? During the disasters, I will say that, I mentioned in here our role in organizing aid for student, staff, and faculty. And what we found was we had to really measure how many people were coming from what direction, who was cut off, and by which barriers. And we learned a lot just in that process about what a great proportion of our own employee base for the college district are coming from a considerable distance away. And so that conversation happens almost weekly in some venue, just because we all know that we've got Gaviota Pass, we've got La Conchita, and we've got 154. And if one or more of those is down, it's a big challenge for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So if you would like to go forward with that tonight, if that's the will of the board, I have no problem saying yes, we'll do that. And then we'd have to figure out how that survey is going to look slightly different than the questions we're asking of students, but it would still be a valuable map of what our employees.
Well, you may already have the information. I don't know that.
We don't have experiential data. What we do have is we know we can look at, working with HR, we can look at where folks live, where home addresses are. So that was actually what I had asked for back when we were doing the disaster work, and we got that. So that's a very high-level snapshot of the geography of where folks live. It doesn't say much more, though, about other housing challenges, about affordability, about how people are adapting to that challenge on affordability. Is it doubling up in units? Is it what may be? What percentage are owners versus renters? All of those kinds of questions are the things you could probably get if we expanded this survey to employees of the district as well. So,
Any other comments, questions?
Well, I would just say I would support expanding it to the employees of the district as well. I think that's a great idea. Although it's not the function of this survey, I think it has so many different implications, and one of which would be our carbon footprint.
Yeah, there would be a lot of folks very much interested in that data. So yeah, I would love to do that. I'm absolutely happy to wrap that in. The implications will be timeline and cost would be the only things affected by that. So we would work with whatever partner when we put out our RFP, and we'd include that and then see what came back to us, essentially with a bifurcated survey.
When do you need the liaison for the board by?
Well, if our RFP isn't going out till May, I'd say by the end of the month of April, it would be good to know who that is. We would start sort of, if you tonight could give us the formalized green light that you'd like to be partners on this, and it doesn't mean necessarily a financial implication. You can still have the time to discuss that. But then we can go ahead and start reaching out to the partners that we've identified and see who's willing and able to be part of that group. We could start talking. I've not asked any of the partners, the research partners that we mentioned here, specifically about doing this on this timeline yet. But if after tonight is when we'd consider that the green light to do that.
Trustee Miller, when you decide, I'd be happy to partner with the foundation on that.
I think first we need to make a decision. We want to go forward. That's what you're asking today?
That would be my first request, yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion in that regard?
Do you want to just roll call like a consensus since it's not an action item?
Yeah,
It's more just a consensus of.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's just
We
information.
need to define the motion.
No, it's just basically consensus that we'd
because it's
like
not
to give
decision.
direction.
Okay.
Is there anybody who opposes going forward with this excellent proposal? Okay.
You're biased.
So I think you hear an endorsement.
That sounds like a yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we will get back to you with a liaison.
Great.
Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely. And what I'll do is I'll offer something for your next meeting packet, just with very specific questions going forward of what we'll need from the board, if that works.
Okay. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank
Very-
you.
Very good. Okay. Our next item is approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of February 7 and the special meeting of February 14. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes for those two meetings?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Croninger. So do we have comments?
Just a quick thing, it's noticed correctly on the description, but on the title it says that the 7th was the regular and the 14th was the special, but it's actually flipped.
It's the
And
other
it's
way
correct
around,
on
yes.
the
You're-
actual
you're
recommended
correct.
action.
You're correct.
Okay, thank you for that
Just
correction.
for the public who's watching, you know.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Our next item is public comment. And let me just say that this time that members of the public have the opportunity to directly address the board on any item of interest to the public that is within the jurisdiction of this board but is not an item noticed on this agenda. And we have three speaker slips for this general public comment. Gregory Koss, Denise Adams, and Celeste Barber. And one I have on top is Gregory Koss. If you could come down, Mr. Koss.
Okay. Good evening, SBCC Board of Trustees. After attending the last three Board of Trustees meetings and listening to various quality of life complaints, demands for free this and that by certain groups, I really think a reality check is needed based on my decades of experience as a growth and turnaround tech company chairman and CEO. So to review stated academic mission, Santa Barbara City College is a fully accredited community college that offers over 155 degree and certificate programs, training in a wide range of career technical fields, transfer programs that provide the first 2 years of study towards a bachelor degree. Our mission is to provide superior quality instruction in all programs. The college's outstanding faculty is committed to master teaching in small classes where students have direct one-on-one access to their professors throughout the year. I agree with all that. Reality check. During the last Board of Trustees meeting, the 5-year fiscal projections were presented with the following alarming facts. SBCC is projecting a structural operating deficit for the current year through to 2021, drawing from reserves until reaching the mandated board reserve minimum balance of $21 million. Historical FTES enrollments have declined every year since 2014-15 year. And what we can count on is double-digit annual pension costs that are projected. So clearly, the 5-year projections are out of alignment with prudent fiscal operations for SBCC and supporting its academic mission. Like many established businesses, the portfolio of products and services and expenses grows to the point where a critical assessment, prioritization, and pruning of both services and expenses is needed for its survival. Seems to me that SBCC is critically at this juncture now. While most of the financial planning discussions are around proposed, projected, prayed for, state and local FTES reimbursement formulas, I submit that the board and the leadership should start at the most basic business level of market needs going forward for local high school graduates, professional continuing, and adult education, and prioritize where SBCC can provide its mission, superior quality instruction, within a profitable annual budget. Understanding the metrics of superior quality instruction, course and program enrollment growth or not, graduation rates, job placement rates, and acceptance into 4-year programs. And finally, in my view, the SBC board and leadership needs a lifeboat exercise to agree on a framework of how to measure each operating expense against its stated academic mission, and then force rank all the courses, programs, operating overhead, and make the hard decisions to get back to profitability, even $1 a year without using the reserves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Koss,
Oh, we don't reply to.
I just would request that you could email a copy of your remarks. I know we have it in print, but email would also be helpful. Thank you.
He did email it.
You did.
This one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I saw the other one.
Our next speaker is Celeste Barber.
Hello. I think it was just 2 months ago that I stood here and endured probably the most terrifying 8 minutes of my life to date. And I think many of you up there, probably all of you, were frightened as well. And I've thought about that for some time, over and over again, played it over. And one of the things that I came away with was the fact that our civil liberties are so fragile in this country. We really take them for granted. I took them for granted before that night, and I never will again. And I just fervently hope that what we saw took place on January 24th never takes place again here or anywhere in our country. The rights that we have in this country are rare throughout the world, even in 2019. An open door, anyone can sit here, anyone can speak, and you have to listen to us. And I hope that that will continue to be respected. What I'd like to say for the remainder of my time is I do have some concerns about the racial sensitivity workshops and other activities that are taking place on this campus. I believe they're unnecessary, they're expensive, they also have the potential to be highly divisive. That said, I'd like to also make a statement. America is not a racist country. Santa Barbara City College is not a racist institution. Now that said, there is evil that exists in this world. Yesterday, the killer was sentenced in Charlottesville. And then just several weeks ago, there were those horrific killings at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. So somehow we have to bridge as a society in America that is not itself racist, as a people who are good people, and the fact that there is evil in this world. And I believe we already do that. The first is through our first teachers, through our parents. You wouldn't be up there on that board doing for our community what you do if you didn't have some incredible people behind you that guided you through your life. I have a 94-year-old father who never spoke to me about his life until this past year, and the stories I'm learning make me understand who I am, and I'm a moral person. The other thing are our teachers. Thousands of teachers who are doing their job, who teach lessons every day that help our young people or reentry people to become moral, contributing citizens. As a teacher, I was here for 20 years. I taught Plato, Shakespeare, my companion here, Walt Whitman, James Baldwin, George Orwell, Cormac McCarthy, Sophocles, so on. I mean, so many of them. The centerpiece of my English 110 course was always King's letter from Birmingham jail. And along with that letter, we watched Spike Lee's 4 Little Girls. And also, every semester I taught 110, we watched a great Czech film, The Shop on Main Street, which was about the Holocaust. We own, by the way, both of those films. They're in the LRC, and you can watch them yourself. We did that in our classroom every semester I taught here. I'm just one of thousands of teachers across the country who are doing the same thing with our students, day in and day out, year after year. And the proof that we have for that is we are getting better as a people. We are. We don't backstep when it comes to racism, misogyny, hatred, intolerance. We are getting better and better, and we're better than any other damn country in the world at it. So I hope you would consider that and think about that as you think about how you're going to spend your precious dollars in the future. Thank you so much for your service. You have a tough job, you've had a tough year, and I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Denise Adams.
Thank you again for your time. I'd like to underscore what you just heard from the past speaker, Celeste Barber. The community is very concerned, and we've expressed this before, that we think many of your problems on campus are orchestrated. We would like to encourage you to pursue a suggestion that was made in late fall 2018 by Trustee Croninger, that you take a comprehensive demographic survey of all of your students. Housing is just one component of what's going on the campus. If in fact you have 16,000 students and over half, 55%, over 8,000 are from out of our district boundaries, we would like to know who these people are, where they come from, what their backgrounds are, why they're here instead of in their own community college area, defined by the districts, what their expectations are, and again, the attrition. What happens to them? You pointed out, Trustee Croninger, at a past meeting that we don't even have data on our program cost. I know from having helped start the nursing program here that that's a very high program cost. Marine biology is a high program cost. You mentioned earlier the factor of attrition. Does housing come into play? Why do people leave here and not finish? We had 16,000 students. We had about 1,500 degrees. We had about 1,000 certificates. People are leaving. They leave for a variety of reasons, but we don't know why they come here. We don't know why they leave here. We know that some students have their needs met because they know if they come to City College and take your CAD class, instead of getting $15, $18 an hour, they're going to get $60 an hour because they can read blueprints. Students come here for different reasons, and it's not always to get a degree or to get a certificate. But you serve a huge purpose, but again, as a community, we don't know who you are. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a multifamily housing task force starting today. There was no mention in the survey that you heard about any agreement to work with the city or with our planning commission. You are part of our community. You're not in isolation. I think the community's tolerated City College for a long time because you did an excellent job. But now that things have changed and we've seen what's going on in the campus, that people aren't happy here, they're making allegations of racism, which are unsubstantiated. They're snapping, they're stomping, they're mad. We want to know what's going on. So I hope if you do any demographic survey, you'll go back and listen to the tape in the fall of Ms. Croninger about program costs, who we're serving, why we're serving them. We know we have 1,600 dual enrollment students, which that's a valuable contribution. Our campus does not have a youth college. They have kid colleges on many other community colleges so that the above average students can come here, as well as in our community, ones who want to learn construction trades, culinary arts. They have a variety of programs to stimulate interest and get kids on campus, which I think enhances our achievement. We've been addressing our low achievement rates, and we're attributing them to ethnicity. I don't know that that's correct. I view it as opportunity, exposure, and motivating people to know what their options are. My last comment that I wanted to address is the board's policy of now taking things out of order. You have many people that come that are paying $15 to $20 an hour for a babysitter, when in fact you put public comment last on your agenda when people see it on the first. You really stifle and you kill public comment because many people don't have the luxury of just coming here. They're working 2 jobs and they're losing pay when they come here, or they're paying for childcare. And I would like to make everyone everyone mindful that not everybody's a retiree or somebody who can just come. And I've heard many disgruntled people leave without the ability to make comment when you put public comment at the very last on the agenda, and they never got called. So I hope that you will stick to a certain format and take that up as a board of how you want to proceed, because the community does want to support the college. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that we have no reports this evening from Associated Students or Academic Senate or Associated Students, classified employees, and from our acting superintendent, president. So we will next move on to item 6.1 and ask, first of all, whether anybody has any item they wish to have removed.
Yes, can I pull 7.3, please?
7.3. Okay, and before we go to that, I'd like to ask if Acting President Bishop could clarify, there's one that I believe needs an amendment?
Yes, on
revisions?
the human resources actions involving permanent personnel, there's a change that we've just updated. The action item, which was 2018-19 PA 004, which was the first numeric one that you saw on that page, is actually Anthony Beebe, and the date has been changed, so that administrative leave begins on 5/1/2019 through July 31st, 2019.
Okay, thank you very much. Trustee Croninger?
I don't know that it's necessary to remove it, but I'm thinking in terms of clarifying some of these. We have a number of them that go to TBD, and so I'm hoping that we could have some sort of system where we know what TBD is, and it doesn't just go on forever, because it becomes basically an open cost to the college.
You're referring to the dates for personnel items and what they refer to.
Correct, and particularly when it's in some of our higher echelons and it's more of an impact to the college if we're paying for people indefinitely, shall we say.
So just clarify, so you're asking that we put in what the range is for that as part of the...
Or some sort of, we're asking you for this length of time, and we'll come back to you if we need more kind of situation, so we have some feel for what are the cost limits going into it.
We'll do that.
Okay. Trustee Gallardo, it was item 7.3?
Yes, and somebody was supposed to get back to us on where the funding was going to come for paying for some of the services under 7.3, and I don't believe we got that information. So I'd like to pull that until we get the information. A lot of them are listed under just grant, but in the past they say what grant that's coming from.
Okay, might I ask, do we require a separate motion on this to remove it from
Can we
the...
just make a motion to table it until we get seen as Dr. Beebe's not here, Dr. Benjamin's not here, Mr. Bishop, if I'm sure would, if you want to...
Okay, so you'd like to make a motion?
To table that, yeah, to table 7.3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
So it could come back to us probably
Okay.
in April.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that item 7.3 will be removed from the consent agenda. Any other items for which a trustee believes?
Could we ask President Bishop, are there implications negative implications to delaying action on 7.3 on this particular item? Does that hamper anything that the administration is planning to do?
Well, I suspect the biggest impact would be on those people that have perform some service, and under this one would be getting paid, but I think if we delayed it till the next meeting, it wouldn't.
I note that we have a special meeting on April 3 to address facilities, and if there's an emergency needed in terms of approving something sooner, I think we could perhaps do it at that meeting if necessary. That'd be my suggestion.
So the specific request was that we identify the sources of income, the sources of revenue with which to pay for these particular items.
Yes, Trustee Haslam. So on our institutional grants, on our homepage, on our City College homepage, we have our IPATH grant, we have the Basic Skills Outcomes grant, and we have the removing the barriers to STEM. And so they all have very specific guidelines by what you have to do with that money. I do see, Dr. Bishop, that some of this the service has already been rendered, and it was assumed that it will be paid by some grant, and we need to make sure that that grant, that is going to fall within the guidelines of the grant.
Okay.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Before you call a vote, did you have a public comment on item, I believe it was item 8?
There is a public comment titled Educational Program Courses. Correct. Is Denise Adams? No, on item 8. Thank you.
Again, thank you for listening. The item number 8 in your agenda packet about your new curriculum coursework, again, going back to what the students' needs are and how best to meet the needs of the community. We noticed that on your proposed new courses, you have under communication item NC 001 and 2, which is basically building an equity mindset and applying an equity mindset. We don't know what that means, but this looks like, again, another social justice course. We have a lot of ethnic studies classes here. The community, what people tend to be looking for are skills that they can use in the community. You have things like cosmetology on here, computer science on here, working with the IRS. If you were to go ask your students what they want to learn in college, right now people are very pragmatic. They want to learn something that equates into something useful in their daily lives. And if you look at your overall course curriculum of how many classes you have in ethnic studies and minority studies, compared to what you have that either leads people on a path to a four-year institution or helps them with the skills that they need in vocational training, automotive, again, marine biology, nursing, or CAD, things that are practical. We again, look at your overall course curriculum, schedule of classes, and then what you're adding here, given your budget constraints. I think rather than add fire to the fuel right now, take a step back, pause, get your demographic study, analyze your data, see what your students want, see what the community wants, participate with our Santa Barbara City Planning Commission, our City Council, who you meet with annually, and become, again, part of the community, and then I think you'll see that the community will come out full throttle and support Santa Barbara City College. Our specific concern is you're building an equity mindset, and you're applying an equity mindset when you have a lot of those courses already in psychology, sociology, and ethnic studies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I forget now, do we have a motion pending on approval of the consent agenda other than with 7.3 removed?
Trustee Miller, what item was that commenting on?
Item number 8.1.
You don't have a motion yet.
Am I the only one that can't find it?
It may have been 8 point, I'm sorry, it may have been 8 point.
I am on 8.1.
It is 8.1.
It is. It has to talk to new courses and programs.
It's under new,
That's it.
what's the course called?
Non-credit. She's referring to that it's in the new non-credit
These are
course
non-credit
proposals.
courses.
The speaker actually wrote down for subject, educational program, and wrote item 8. So it's unclear to me whether it was item 8.1 or 8.2.
It is 8.1.
I guess our question is, what course is it referring?
The last ones.
Oh, and I see it over here.
It's
Under Curriculum Advisory Committee.
It's new non-credit course proposal, and there are 2 courses under that category in 8.1, I believe it is.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have the motion, or, because,
That's what I was asking, whether we had a motion.
You don't have
that's-
a motion yet.
Okay.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
With the exception of item 7.3?
Right.
Okay. Is there a second? Trustee Aboud, seconds. Is there discussion?
No, but I think maybe when Dr. Ralston comes back, to clarify where these courses are, given concerns that the community might have or that just had, maybe it would be helpful if we knew if they were, sometimes, Dr. Ralston, it's clear when she explains them whether this was part of IGETC, whether it's an articulation agreement. And so that might we can just request them so that people know where these courses are coming from and what program they support, or if it's CSU, UC transferable. And I'm assuming one of these might be a course that is, no, I know it's new non-credit, but in terms of just, that's an example of where our courses come from.
Trustee Croninger.
yes, if I'm reading this correctly, as a new non-credit course proposal, it would be state-supported, so in effect, FTES and our new funding formula. So we get revenue from it, provided the enrollment reaches a certain minimum, which is something that we expect of all of our classes, including non-credit classes. And if the enrollment was too low, basically to support the class financially, then we would not have the class, even though it is listed as a possibility. So in terms of revenue, this has to do with what is the student demand. Is it sufficient to support a course of this nature offered in our non-credit program, is I think the financial implication here.
That's good. So something like that I think would be helpful to just, and then people would know.
Trustee Aboud?
I think that's really out of the ordinary. We usually approve these pretty routinely because it's not our job to decide what classes are offered at the college. That's the faculty's job and the administrators who we employ. So I might need to pass this today.
No, we're not undermining the curriculum advisory. We're fully supporting it. We're saying so that people don't read the attachment and then feel like they have to come, we can just write an explanation like that, and then the public would be clear as to where the money and all that stuff comes. All our courses support our mission, so.
But why are we picking out these 2 classes?
We're not picking out the class. We are acknowledging that maybe we can have a description here so that then it'll be clear, and then people don't have to come to the podium. They can just say, oh, that supports this, and it falls under this governor of initiative or whatever. It'll just make it clear for folks. Because all our courses are mission focused.
Trustee Nielsen?
Yeah, I think it's important. I'm not going to repeat what Veronica just said or what Marcia just said, but it's important that we acknowledge that we had a member of the public before us that brought something to our attention and that we responded to that. And this is quick. We've already responded. We don't have to do it again. We don't have to agendize it again. We just make a recommendation and expect the administration to follow through on it, and I see nothing wrong with that process.
Any other comments? Trustee Parker?
Yeah, my only concern with that, because I wholeheartedly approve with the transparency and making things as clear as possible, is that if this is now happening with all of the courses that go on this list, that is actually a new amount of work that we're asking staff to do. So I just want to be sure that we allow the superintendent president to mull over whether or not that is something that we're putting an undue burden on staff to do. So.
Trustee Parker, we're not asking for every single course. It's kind of like when you see a description, on the recommended action. And so like fiscal does it really well. They give a really good detail. They tell us like why it's being recommended. And they just put basically, they sometimes even attach ed code to it or whatever, just like an overview of what it is. We're not asking that. Faculty has 100% purview over all curriculum and instruction matters. This
But
board
I'm just
understands
pointing
that.
out that on this particular item alone, we have 30 at least.
No. We're talking about like what Marcia described. But anyway, we don't have to discuss it here. I think Dr. Benjamin will be able to direct us in the right way of just providing a summary as to the categories of the funding for these courses. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure they already have that. The School of Extended Learning is well underway. I'm sure it's not a problem.
They would have course descriptions. In the old days before the computers, it was when there was a new course, there was a course description. So all we're asking for is just something to guide us to the course, the course description, and to categorize it, and if necessary, how it's funded, whatever it is. It's just, and that can be in the course description or wherever. So we just need a little more information. When I first started on this board, in most of these reports, there was a lot more information, and it's been trimmed and cut, just assuming that we all know what's going on. But not all of us have been here for 4 or 5 years, and there's a lot of detail here that are, might tend to lay behind the scenes. So it's real easy to take something for granted. And I think maybe one of the reasons the community is asking questions, and for the most part, if they wanted to know something like this, they would just call or talk to somebody that works here and find out. But they're coming to our meetings because they're concerned about how we're functioning. And I think it's really important to address it as quickly as possible.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to call the vote.
I just like to get a clarification on are you asking that in each of these categories we tell you whether it's fee-based or, I mean, we know non-credit is apportionment-based, we know credit's apportionment-based, and we know that fee-based is fee-based. Is there further detail that might be required for any of those?
A little summary like that, I think, is perfect. Kind of like that goes along with what you said.
Yeah, I think it's quite understandable why the community would not understand, reading what we have here, how the fiscal system works. And we could probably have a short description here as to how the classes are supported and whether or not we're really not offering classes like these non-credit classes as a losing proposition. We have to, if there's no interest, then we don't offer the class ultimately. If there is interest, then we offer the class. So it is intended to reflect the desires of the community as to what they want to take.
And I guess a second point of clarification, so it's the board's pleasure to have course descriptions included with each of the courses that have been approved?
No.
But we should be able to find those, which we can.
Yeah.
And I think we can find the rest of it as well. I share Kate's concern about even the hint that we're going to ask for additional information on grounds that we want to provide complete transparency. The information about how courses are funded is available in a variety of places. And maybe what we could do is have a simple paragraph at the beginning of each meeting's statement of courses that have been approved by the curriculum committee, so indicating, but it shouldn't be interpreted by anyone as demanding additional labor for the, I hope that we can at least agree on that point.
Mm-hmm.
What you're recommending is a standard introduction at the beginning of this document that would specify for the funding for fee-based courses, non-credit courses, credit courses, et cetera. And just be the same statement on each time it's issued.
That's fine. That's all, I think that's all Veronica was asking for.
Okay.
We can do that.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop.
I love this guy's attitude.
Okay.
You could substitute anytime you want.
Can we call the vote now? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, our next item, I believe, is 10.1, and we have Denise Adams, who has requested to make a comment on item 10.1. Item 10.1 is board ethics.
Again, thank you for your time and your service, trustees. On the issues that you're going to be discussing about board ethics as well as the student success support for all students, I'd like to address both of those items. The issue of adopting this resolution for student success for your interim president who's coming in, Dr. Patterson, I'd like to suggest that you defer and wait till she gets here until you meet her. She coincidentally attended school, graduate school, where I went to graduate school in Denton, Texas, right after the 1960s. I think many of the issues that you have addressed here in your resolution that say that she will be doing this, that, and the other might be more appropriate to wait till you get your permanent president, superintendent on board. I think you'll find, unless she was asleep at the wheel or living in a vacuum during the late 60s, 70s in Denton, Texas, where we were in the midst of desegregation. I know I was a dorm mother for 600 women. It was a very rough time, and I think you're going to be very pleased with what you find, because when you live through something, we have communication skills, great respect. We understand diverse backgrounds. We've seen what poverty is in the United States, which is quite different in the Deep South versus in California, where I came from. And I think you're going to be pleased with who you have. So rather than adopt something that she's going to be doing before we even meet her and get to know what she proposes, I think it's premature. The one statement on your Let It Be Resolved on page 2 where it says, the goal is to equip students with skills that allow them to find their future path and live successfully off and after campus in a world where social and economic inequities remain manifest. That's something that when all of this mumbo jumbo started in January, the Board of Accreditation has written me a letter. That's a goal that every community college in California teach and prepare students for entering the real world. And what we are not doing here, and why we had to contact the Chancellor's Office and accreditation about the inability of the board to run the college and to allow everything to seemingly get out of control here, was because we weren't preparing our students. Nothing in life is fair. You learn that when you're little. Nothing's fair, whether I or you or somebody else starts out in an orphanage, or we start out without parents, or my court-appointed kid, his parents threw him off an overpass here in town and broke every bone in his body by age 5. You know, nothing's fair. It's how we repair the damage. And City College is a place for second opportunities. So again, I would like our focus to be on how we give people second opportunities, empower them, and give our new interim president, superintendent, a chance to come with whatever her agenda may be. Let's hear her out before we decide how to conduct it. The second part of this section on your agenda has to do with board ethics and conduct. I wanted to share with you that we have contacted the Human Resource Department, and we've asked them for what are the standards of conduct for faculty and board members. They are able to give us standards of conduct for students, but not necessarily for your faculty. By virtue of monitoring Facebook and social media, what's posted publicly, we know who communicates with who and how some of this is being driven, what's happening on campus. It's happening because of some of the trustees as well as some of the faculty perpetuating and encouraging discourse and disruption. That's unethical. That's irresponsible. That is not professional conduct. This document, again, is on student success, But on your topic today is board ethics. It would be wonderful if you had adopted a faculty code of conduct. When they're representing this college, they are not to be out there stomping and finger stamping in a meeting or threatening people at the public and calling people like me a white racist or anybody else any names. It's unbecoming. It's very disheartening to follow on Facebook and to see who communicates with who and what they're telling people to do and how it's orchestrated. Now that we know it's orchestrated, we are asking you as trustees, please, be responsible adults, adopt guidelines, enforce your own board policies and procedures. I have still not received a response to my requests that I submitted as per your policies. You'll also notice when you read your board policies, it's not clearly spelled out how trustees are supposed to behave and what their responsibilities are when they're elected. I do know that there are people on the Board of Supervisors who are looking into how to recall certain trustees because their documented behavior is inappropriate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I would like to just begin this topic by saying that I requested to have this item on the agenda because I'm concerned that contrary to the board I joined 13 months ago, we have sometimes lost our ability to engage in civil discourse. I acknowledge we have occasionally been drawn into some very contentious issues concerning gender and racial equity issues, but that is all the more reason we have to set an example for civil discourse. I note that Board Policy 2715, our Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice, says that we must promote and maintain good relations with other board members by several requirements that I feel bear repeating. Number one, keeping an open mind and listening to other ideas and points of view. Number two, respecting the opinions of others and abiding by majority rule. Number three, working with other board members in a spirit of harmony and cooperation and considering others' opinions. Four, refraining from highly repetitive commentaries during board meetings. And five, refraining from personal criticism of other board members in meetings or other public communications. I've just recited a very small part of Board Policy 2715, but I cited those policies that I think are particularly important to us, and that's why I added it to the agenda this evening. Are there any comments? Trustee Aboud?
Yeah, Robert, you and I, President Miller, you and I had a good conversation about this a couple days ago, so thank you for putting this on the agenda. So I do want to acknowledge to you and to the board that at the last meeting, during the anti-racism resolution discussion, that I made comments that could have been stated differently to make the same point without directing anything towards any other trustees. So I apologize for targeting other members of the board rather than directing my comments to the situation as a whole. So I want to say I'm committed to having an honest, having honest, hard discussions about the controversial issues that we're dealing with, because honestly they are very controversial, without making it very personal to any specific board members. And I, like everyone here, am working hard to represent my constituents and get results for them, who I know hold me accountable. So since we're all in the same boat, I think it just means all of us having to compromise with each other to accomplish our goals.
Thank you, Trustee Aboud. I appreciate that very much. Any other comments on this topic? Trustee Parker?
Yeah, I would just add, and I appreciate that this was on as well, and I'm sure other board members will have comments, but I would just add that it speaks to this board really needing to have some time just to talk through these types of issues, and I know that President Miller, that you're working to make a time for us to do that in May, and that I look forward to that. Thank you.
We are working on that. Hopefully we'll have something nailed down soon. I think that, I'm not sure everybody responded. We were looking at a date, May 18, and so far I haven't heard of any conflicts, but...
I did have a conflict, unless you do it in the morning, I can't do late afternoon.
Okay, well, we'll get back to everybody.
Okay, I did respond.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If not, Trustee Haslam.
Sure.
Well, as we deal with controversial issues, it would be difficult for me to assume that we wouldn't be passionate about those issues. If we weren't passionate about educational issues or any other that come before us, we probably wouldn't be here. So I understand that part. I've also been a part of a board where issues became personalized. And when that starts to happen, we degrade what we do. And so I really appreciate the conversation. I think what has been said is on target, and that we can have difficult conversations. We can have serious differences of opinion, but we do need to refrain from referring to each other in one fashion or another that is derogatory, because that's a slippery slope that goes down very quickly and very steeply. And so I appreciate and applaud the effort taken today to do that.
Thank you, Trustee Haslam. Trustee Gallardo, did you have a comment as well?
Yeah, well, Trustee Abud, I accept your apology. Thank you. And I thank you, Trustee Miller, for bringing this. I concurred with Peter. We can only act as a whole, and we only have one superintendent president. So only as one unit can we give direction to the college. We do have a board code of ethics, standards of conduct, board policies, and the president of the board has that job to address these things. I think it is. I don't think I just speak for myself, but it is our wish that we wouldn't go to the consequence of our board policy, which is sanctions and censure, because we do respect the elected office. We do respect the constituents that elected the folks on this table. And so I look forward to having discussions where we come to an agreement by consensus, but this has been an enjoyable board for the last 6 years. And I hope it continues to be for the next 2, and we'll see what the Lord has after that. But so I thank you, Jonathan, for your humility, and I accept your apology.
Okay, any other comments? If not, let's move on to item 10.2. Let me just say that as background, that at our last meeting, Trustee Abud, Trustee Parker presented a draft of a resolution dealing with racism issues on campus. And at some point, I think towards the end of that discussion, Trustee Croninger also shared with us a draft of or an alternative proposal. And so today, that item, which was not actually on the agenda last week, is on this week's agenda for discussion only, not action. And let me just say that I think, as several of you know, that Dr. Benjamin has told us she intends to take the draft resolutions, the ones that were presented last week and the one this week, as well as seeking information from other constituent groups on campus in order to fashion a resolution for consideration by the board, possibly as soon as our April 11 meeting. So I don't expect a detailed discussion tonight of Trustee Croninger's resolution, and I'm asking everyone if they could save most of their comments for a later board meeting. That's not to say we can't discuss it tonight, but I think it'd be best if we save most of our comments for the meeting when we get down to a final proposal that Dr. Benjamin expects to present to us. Maybe I could turn to Trustee Croninger to start or present her alternative.
Well, try to keep it short here. Just as a preliminary matter, the question of bringing it to the last meeting was something after discussion with Dr. Benjamin, and she had said to me she wanted me to bring it to the meeting as well as put it on this agenda. So in terms of the process, I was following what she had in mind. Also, to agree with Robert on that, I know you've been more in communication with her than any of us, but that's my understanding as well, that she plans to work with our participatory governance process to come back to us possibly as soon as April 11th. So really, this draft is intended to present some ideas about what might or might not come back to us ultimately. I guess a couple of kind of big picture points from my point of view to kind of explain where I was coming from. I tried to limit the number of whereases. I tried to look at those as things that would set context for the college that are relevant to what we're talking about, particularly our efforts historically, which I think are demonstrably successful. As we look at our data, we are doing better each year, and sometimes it goes up a little and down a little, but just to give an example, spring and fall of 2018, just this last fall, for example, and the spring before it had the 2 second highest student success rates for our black students, that and an increase of 8% in success since 2014. I think that's impressive. I think that speaks to the college's ability to continue to achieve greater success in these areas, and even despite the controversies that we saw during that time period. So to me, looking at the data, and this is something that came up in the conference that a number of us were able to attend this past weekend, as trustees, we look at big picture information. We look at the data on student success. We learn about and ask ourselves, what does it mean and what can we do better accomplishing? During the same time period from 2014, our DACA student success rate dropped. As I look at that, it dropped only 1% from 2014, but 5% from where it was, dropped 5% in spring of, from where it was in spring 2016 to this last spring. It was a sudden drop, basically, in the last semester. I don't know if that means something, but it's the kind of data point to me that I think we would want to learn about. You know, why is one of our groups of students having more difficulty apparently in looking at those numbers? This is part of the reason why I think it's a big picture issue. I don't think it's a one type of just anti-racial. I think that all of the protected categories of students need to be included, and that it's important for us to look at the different kinds of bias that we may all unconsciously have or may unconsciously be a barrier to success. And I know the college has done a lot of work. We have grants specifically for that kind of purpose, removing barriers. And I think the board has great confidence in our ability to do even more and to do better. And really, that's what I'm trying to say in this. The other element, I guess, is that I think the board certainly has the ability to tell itself what to do in any situation. So I included 2 items there that are a possibility, one of which Kate referenced, and we've talked about the possibility of having a more extended discussion. I think it should be facilitated among ourselves about board ethics and responsibilities as trustees. So,
thank you. Any comments? Trustee Nielsen?
Yeah, I have about 3 things. I'll be pretty brief. About the tone of Marcia's proposed referendum and the idea for it. I like the tone, because in order to fix a problem, you know, you have to look around at at the things that aren't the problem and what progress has already been made, and then build on that. You don't throw away everything that's been done in the past and start all over it. That's reinventing the wheel. So I like the positive tone of this. It's building on what we already do. Then I looked at some of the things that the state has been doing, and recently I've been looking at it. And you know, you have, and then you see in the national news even, and we make state news. It happens a lot. As a college, we're one of the better ones in the state. We have less racial problems, less minority underperformance than most others, and we do pretty darn well relative to everybody else. So it's important, I think, for us to remember that we're doing a lot of things right, and let's not break what we're doing right. Let's try to identify areas where we can make improvements and take a positive attitude towards things. And this is opposed to tearing stuff down, saying things are bad or something is endemic in our institution, or using terminology like that. Is contrary, I'm almost to my third point, and it's contrary to the third point, which I'll make in a minute. And I would ask you guys, I would just tell you, the CCC has a nice article, I forgot how I found it, a Hessinger report maybe, and it's on A Squared Amend and partnering with Umoja and what they're doing in the state of California and what they've set up to do. And it's pretty active on some campuses. In the past, I've attended breakout sessions on Umoja and things, and watched and listened to the different needs and the wants and the programs that are being instituted, only because I didn't know that much about it and I wanted to learn. There's a lot that we can tap out there without having to reinvent things. Now I got to remember where I was kind of going with this, and at the moment my mind has quit. So I'll interrupt you later when it comes back to me. I'm getting old, sorry.
And I just realized I erred again in leaving out a speaker who wanted to address this topic. Is Mr. Hamilton still here? We could call you up at this time. Thank you. I'll get the hang of it yet.
Good afternoon, trustees. My name is Charles Bullwinkle Hamilton, a Loma Alta neighbor. Retired as of January 1, my academic and career experience includes a lot under the headings of race relations and intercultural communication. I'm therefore here today to make some comments, hopefully with meaning for you, in support of your process to adopt a resolution to guide you in your efforts to proactively address racism on campus. You are facing up to a most difficult, age-old, and widespread human relations problem. Here's why. All of us live with and exhibit both positive and negative prejudicial identity-based thinking and behavior. We really have no choice, because we are all wired by our incredible brains that efficiently categorize and attach meaning to the massive amounts of informational encounters that we regularly have with each other. Without this intelligent brain function, we would dwell in a constant state of confused exhaustion. The crux of our problem, however, is what we do with our brain-induced prejudices. When we deal with them, individually or collectively in a deliberately thoughtful context and in an ethical and responsible way, we can channel and control them in positive ways toward positive ends. Alas, many of us are not so inclined. Many of us, whether in our interpersonal affairs or in our politics, are guided only by expediency and little, if any, morality in how we behave. Many of us choose to simply use prejudices to efficiently oppress, dominate, control, and exploit each other. Looking a little more at how this problem manifests itself, I borrowed from the thinking of Gordon Allport in his now 65-year-old book called The Nature of Prejudice. He identified 5 progressive stages of prejudicial behavior. The first stage is antilocution, such as name-calling, the use of epithets, or hate speech toward a person, a group, or a whole community. It may not break bones at first, but once this combative stage of prejudicial thinking and behavior becomes socially normalized, it can, and all too often does, lead to the other self-destructive 4 stages of avoidance, discrimination, physical attack, and ultimately extermination, whether as a single murder or en masse. In today's rapidly condensing informational and increasingly weaponized world, we are now actually existentially challenged to learn to live together with our multiple differing identities, whether racial or something else. We simply cannot accept this self-destructive challenge as our destiny, as just the way it is. I therefore believe, again in support of your process to craft a resolution, that we must thoroughly, at all levels in our educational systems, educate ourselves about our predisposition to and the dangers of prejudice to ensure that each of us, one person at a time, learns why and how to avoid engaging in negative and destructive identity-based thinking and behavior. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any other comments? Trustee Haslam.
I like the idea of postponing further discussion until our new superintendent-president can have a look at it and weld together and present what might be an interesting compromise.
Thank you. Any other quick comments before we move on?
No, I mean, I don't know where it would fit, but I went to listen to Lisa Genova at UCSB Arts and Lectures, and you know, she's got a PhD in neuroscience, and she wrote Still Alice. You guys watch the movie? Anyway. And she concluded her talk by talking about empathy and how she said that if we, I wouldn't want to quote her, but the idea that if we had more empathy, even in our current climate right now, then we would actually be able to not just sympathize with people like, oh gosh, sorry this happened to you, but really to empathize with someone. And so she shared how that's really how she's been able to bring this work about Alzheimer's to the world, but through storytelling. So then I began to reflect on just this idea of empathy. And so I was an English major here at City College, and I was probably the only Latina girl sitting there in the English class. A lot of my friends were not of color. And a lot of my friends of color, you know, they were like, well, I don't see myself in the literature. And so when Lisa Genova began to talking about that, I thought, well, how did I major in English? And I loved it. And you learn a lot through storytelling. And so I would love to see something here in the way of empathy, because I saw myself actually in William Blake when I read The Romantics. And it's because I grew up Catholic. And if you read that period, so much of the Bible is in there. And so I saw myself and my family in the Psalms and in the literature that I was reading. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, classic novel to learn about differences in class. And so I don't know if that falls in here, but that has spoken to me a lot. And I, you know, the discourse that we've seen here and the public comment, if you guys saw what children are seeing and what children are hearing and the discussions that children are having, we have a sense of urgency to really get this right, because there's a lot of adults that are exposing kids to a lot of things that are not good. And so when you're a first grade teacher and your students walk in or a mother comes in tears at 6 o'clock because she still sees you in your classroom and she knocks on the door and she shares something she heard at a board meeting or that she heard in the media, and she's crying and asking for your help, then you start to empathize, and then that empathy, and whether you look like her or you don't look like her, you're like, gosh, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, or I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a granddaughter. And I feel like we have a lot more in common than we don't. And if I'm able to see myself in the literature that I was read to, being an English major at City College and at UCSB, none of which of those characters looked like me, I think we can all learn a lot from storytelling and develop a little bit more empathy. So I don't know if that falls in here, maybe in another era, or another something.
Thank you, Trustee Gallardo. Okay, I'm going to move on, unless I see another hand. I'm going to move on to item 10.3, which is titled the Third Amendment to Superintendent President's Contract. And I would describe this merely as a change to reflect, this is in the contract for Superintendent President Beebe, and it merely reflects the fact that he is retiring as of July 31, rather than, as the contract states, the contract goes through June 30, 2022. So it's a correction to the contract to reflect that fact. Do I hear a motion to approve it?
I'll move approval.
A
I hear a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item 10.4. I'm open to how we deal with this, but item 10.4 is asking for us to vote for. It's actually an election of candidates for the California Community College Trustees Board of Directors. And we've been given a list of a number of candidates, I don't know, something like 10 or more, and we're asked to vote for 7.
13.
So maybe somebody here has gone through them and has a recommendation for us. Trustee Haslam?
Well, I haven't yet. I usually do. I call my colleagues on other boards of trustees, and I ask specific questions like, how is this person to work with? What biases are there that you can tell me about? So, but I haven't had a chance to do that, and maybe each of us would do so if we had a little more time. I just don't feel prepared to do this today.
I note that we're asked to submit the ballot by April 25, so we could take this up at the special meeting on April 3, or we could do it on April 11th. I guess I would suggest April 11 that we add it to the agenda.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. And a lot of the mailers are still coming in. I mean, I have 4 of the 7, but a lot of you guys are probably still getting them in the mail. And then the chancellors, their recommendation usually comes in a little later, like the board and I endorse. So, yeah, I'm good with holding off.
Thank you for delaying that.
Okay, so we now go to item 10.5, report from board members. And I'm going to start. I have a couple items to mention. I want to remind everyone that Dr. Benjamin will officially begin on Monday. And I would note that although she's, even though she's starting Monday, she's really been on the job for, since the day that we made the offer to her. She's been in connection with a number of us by text and email and telephone. And secondly, I can report that we have had preliminary discussions. That is, I've discussed this with Dr. Benjamin, and maybe others have as well, about getting organized to commence the process to find a permanent superintendent president. And that topic may be on our April 11 agenda for discussion and possible action to move forward. Third, I'd just like to mention that along with several of you, I attended the ACCT conference in Solvang last Sunday and Monday. And I thought it was a good session. I learned some new things. I think one of the major takeaways for me was to learn from Alan Hancock's trustees and president that they've had a significant increase in enrollment since they began their Promise program. In fact, there's some speculation that they may be taking some students from us who may have been attending Santa Barbara City College who come from the Alan Hancock district. So we shouldn't complain about that. We're glad that they're going down the same path that we are with the Promise program. One thing unique about their, I don't know if it's unique, but I was impressed by the fact that they are actually reaching into the 4th grade to start publicizing the Promise program and talking to students about attending college at that early age. I don't know what you are in 4th grade, maybe 9, 8 years old. So I thought that was an interesting idea. And we talked earlier about the May 18th possible retreat. I didn't recall, Trustee Nielsen, that you'd mentioned you're off. You have a conflict in the afternoon?
Afternoon into the evening, yes, I have a serious conflict.
So you could do it in the morning. I don't know.
I could do it anything up to like 2 o'clock.
I noticed the last board retreat was a half day, and I guess I hadn't thought about whether it's going to be a half day or a full day. Maybe I'd ask whether anybody has any initial thoughts on that, whether we need a whole day or we could cover the topics needed in a half day.
I would just say it's incredibly important for all 7 of us to be there. I mean, I could see that we might have the materials for a whole day discussion, but if 7 of us can only do half day, then I think half day it is. And to work from there and just tailor an agenda that fits the time we have.
Okay.
Could we possibly explore another date?
Sure.
I mean, if Saturday doesn't work, would Sunday work?
Yes, for me.
Sunday the 19th?
All day long.
Anybody?
Would that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Hey, solution.
Churches on YouTube.
Let me see if I can
and
find a
stream.
building.
Okay.
Sunday.
Well, there won't
But I'll work on it.
Won't be any churches available.
No, but this is, I didn't mean that this is more important than church, but this is really important. We need to do this, and we need not to be restricted by time.
Yeah, I agree.
Anybody else have anything to report? Trustee Haslund?
Do I have anything to report?
Yes, that's the question.
Oh. No, I'm really appreciating the time that members of the community put in to make their public comments. Sometimes we don't agree with the comments. That's our prerogative. But I think, and our silence sort of is deafening, and I feel some obligation to just say thank you to people who come to us and express their opinions. I'm not fond of the 5-minute rule. I prefer to see it more like 3 minutes because we have a lot of business to do, and I also find, at least in my own experience, that if I'm given 5 minutes to say something, I'm going to take 5 minutes. It doesn't mean that I have 5 minutes worth of content. It means that I've expanded it to fill the time allotted for completion. So I appreciate that that kind of input, and we need it. That's part of our process that is very important. With reference to another aspect of the process, I'd like us to consider, and maybe the retreat is the appropriate place. We have sort of a draconian process of ending submission of the sheets of paper indicating that there is a public comment. And I wonder if it might not be a better idea to initiate our meetings with the comment by the chair that says public comment slips will be collected up to and including the next 5 minutes of the meeting, and then it is cut off permanently. In other words, providing some kind of a grace period. I noticed that 2 people were here. They came a little late. They tried to have a slip submitted, and they stayed for the balance of the meeting, but then they left. And I find myself wondering, what did they have to say? How could we have benefited from whatever that is? I admit that there is a need to cut it off. Otherwise, people get a strange notion in the middle of a meeting, say, oh, I'm going to make a public comment. No, we can do that, but we can do it with a grace period, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that.
Good comments. I just quickly note that I think most public bodies in Santa Barbara County, I know the Goleta Planning Commission, I know the Goleta City Council, I think the Santa Barbara City Council are all 3 minutes. That seems to be the more standard time. I don't know how this body came up with 5 minutes.
It used to be 3 minutes. I don't know when we changed it to 5.
Point of order, I just want to be really careful because this is something that I think a lot of people would want to talk to us about, and I want to be careful we don't talk too much without it being agendized, but I think it is incredibly important.
Point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Any other reports from trustees? Trustee Nielsen?
Yeah. By the way, I'll make copies of the agenda for the conference I went to and get them to everybody on the board. Been a little busy the last couple of weeks, and I didn't get the copies made up to pass out tonight. Oh, I got to eat the microphone. It's on.
No.
Just
speak up.
I went to a couple of weeks ago. I attended a conference in Portland, Oregon, and it was a national ACT thing. I was the only one from SBCC that was there, but several other people came up and said, "Where's Beebe? Where's Dr. Beebe?" He's pretty well known. Most of the people there were trustees, but there were a lot of college presidents there, and I think there was a group of about 75 of us is all. So it wasn't a huge group, but it wasn't as small as our recent group up in Solvang. There was a lot of discussion about things like guns on campus, a couple hours worth, discussions on campus security. Found out a lot of campuses, junior colleges around the country have actual police forces and reasons for that, how they're established and different guidelines, talked about a lot about Title V and how to enforce that, how to handle that, and the issues about it that could become troublesome and hard to deal with, and some things that are being done that are like overkill and don't need to be done. It was really quite detailed. They went on for hours about that. And then one of the things, the thing I found most interesting, and then I can't find the photograph. I took a picture of this thing on the wall. We're all given this long list of terms, things that we'd be concerned about as trustees, and we were given a bunch of red dots and go to put them. We're only given so many dots and put them on the most important things. And I was really surprised by what came out. So was everybody, kind of. Not maybe about the first 2 or 3 things. But one thing that ranked way higher than I expected was protecting the reputation of your institution, of your college. It ranked pretty high in importance, and that was spoken about. And that particular item is so important. It really comes down to why we have our rules, regulations, policies on board member conduct, and all the way through, and the systems and how they work, and following the systems and allowing enough time for the systems to react, and being thorough. Different ways to deal with problems. But in all cases, when things occur, to really keep in mind to protect your institution. It's rarely the college's fault. It's usually, when something goes wrong, it's us people that do it. We're human beings and we make mistakes. We need to be allowed to maybe make a mistake and then correct it, but we need to not blame the college. We need to protect the reputation of the college. That's part of our duties as a trustee. I got that loud and clear out of the conference, and there were some other really good points. It was probably the one conference that I enjoyed and learned more than any other one I'd been to. It was really good. I got some time alone with some nice people. Noah Brown, who you may know, is the national president of the ACT Association. I had some real interesting dinner companions, and it was constant work from sunrise till well after sunset. So I'll get the agenda passed around, and if you have any questions on any of the agendas, like what was talked about, I'd appreciate you asking me, instead of me boring you for hours telling you what it was all about. But it was really good. A couple of years ago, we decided as a board to curtail our attendance at these different things because of budgetary reasons. And our budget, not getting any better, but if we don't keep up and we don't do our jobs by keeping ourselves up to date and educated and current, then we're not going to be able to lead this college effectively. So I really think it's important. There are some conferences that I won't attend because I don't need to, but there are others that I've never gotten to that I want to go to. So that's my comment for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee Croninger.
Well, thank you for that, Craig, because I really like that report and that interest in protecting the reputation of the college. It dovetails a bit with some of the discussion at the conference this last weekend, where the role of the trustee as an advocate for the college in the community, and our job there to advocate for the institution and its success. The couple things, a lot of it happened at the conference, but a couple things I wanted to mention, and this may not be the meeting to do it because they're both academic, but one was a mention of the BA alternative, that Rio Hondo, for example, has a BA in automotive technology, which they're finding is a really good thing for leading to well-paid jobs. Another college had a BA in medical information management, and I know we're already doing a lot in this area, so that seemed pretty interesting that maybe we should revisit some of those BA options. And the other thing I was going to mention, there was considerable concern, recognition, we don't know both sides of the story, but concern about CSUs apparently are proposing to reduce the requirement for graduation history classes from 2 classes to 1 class, and that's something that trickles down to us. So the thought was, if we think this is not a good idea, we should perhaps express it to the CSUs.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Sure.
I'll accept that as a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.